Welcome to an exciting journey into the world of auctions. We will navigate the legal intricacies, explore digital innovations, delve into the economic impact, uncover hidden treasures, and ensure your confidence with consumer protection. So whether you're a seasoned pro or a curious newcomer, this is your backstage pass to the voice of auction.
Steph, what is the history and tradition behind live auctions and how they have evolved over time?
Fino is one of the oldest selling methods in the world. Auctions were there right from the start. One of the oldest ways of selling, trading items, gold, food, beverages at one stage. So it's one of the oldest selling methods out there, and it's evolved tremendously over the last 100 years. But only in the last 25 years, live auctions has changed tremendously throughout not only South Africa but internationally as well.
How are they different to online auctions?
Live auctions were the preferred way of selling on auction for many years. As long as we can remember, when people attended auctions and items were sold, live with people attending and filling the rooms and filling the crowds. Of late, and specifically in South Africa, after the pandemic, people tend to went more towards online auctions, where there is no live venue anymore. People do not attend and get together for an auction, but rather attend and register for an auction online and taking their bidding platform to online basis.
So who do you think are the key participants in terms of your auctioneers, your sellers, and also your bidders?
Yeah, I think all three of those are very important for an auction, but auctioneer needs people, he needs buyers. You need sellers to sell goods. I think very important as well is the administrative part of an auction, where many items get sold on a specific period day in a specific period of time. And administrative people, your ringmen, is also people that's an integral part of live auctions. We call them the bid catchers or the bid callers, where they physically relay bids to the auctioneer where there's a big crowd. So apart from having a buyer, having a seller and having an auctioneer, there's slightly more to it behind the scenes, which is very important for live auctions.
On that, what types of items are typically auctioned on a live auction?
I think auction process and method of selling tend to gain momentum where large quantity, large volume of assets had to be sold in a short period of time, where an auctioneer are able to sell between 1,000 and 2,000 items on a single day in a single auction. Anything from cattle auctions, sheep auctions, agricultural auctions were very prominent in many years ago. It turned into, specifically in Cape Town and South Africa, vehicle auctions, very big and promotional of memorabilia, sports memorabilia, furniture, any movable assets, and of late, property auctions have been very competitive in South Africa as well.
So what role is the auctioneer and how do they facilitate the bidding process?
Well, I think if you take the word auction and auctioneer, you can't have an auction without an auctioneer. I think the auctioneer is the facilitator of an auction. He is leading a auction where it's very important to have authority at the day, taking control, having a start and having an end to an auction, and selling and getting the best for your sellers and entertaining your buyers. I think a lot of our auctioneers has become entertainers, where they can keep a crowd for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours at max, and entertain them for a live auction.
Can you explain just the concept of the reserve price?
So a reserve price on an auction is a set value, a determined value for a specific item. That value is determined by the seller or by the facilitator, the auctioneer, and an item on an auction will not be sold if it does not receive that reserve price. We call it the maximum price that needs to be obtained for an item is a reserve price.
What are the strategies in terms of a bidder to obtain that the best bid for them?
I think for a bidder needs to try and get a value of an item that if he's a reseller, that he can still make some kind of profit when he buys an item. So he'll tend to, get it at a lower value. Where it is an item of significant value, and a buyer would try and pay as much as possible to just obtain that specific item. So there's different strategies for different people, depending on what your modus operandi is to buy an item, what to do with the item. So they tend to influence the auctioneer as best they can on the day, and it's important from an auctioneer's perspective to control that type of bidders as well.
Is there any etiquette in terms of that from the bidder's perspective?
Absolutely, there's rules and regulations, conditions for every auction. The auctioneer's decision is final. If an auctioneer opens a bid, he can accept a lower bid, but he does not have to. The auctioneer is in control. The auctioneer can decline a bid on an auction. If you open a bid at R1,000 and a bidder wants to offer 10 Rand, the auctioneer doesn't have to accept that offer. So I think in etiquette, you don't delay or make an auction a lot slow by coming in too low in an auction. I think that's some bidders etiquette that some people do adapt to on regular auctions.
Then how do you record these winning bids in terms of the administration of it?
Yeah, as we spoke about earlier, admin is a very integral part of an auction. If you sell more than 500 to 1,000 items on a day, it's very integral to record your bidding process. The bids that gets obtained and gets sold by the auctioneer needs to be recorded. From a personal point of view, we do live recordings where there's video recordings of all our auctions. We do audio recordings of the auctioneer, and then we call it a vendor roll. The auctioneer has an assistant or the auctioneer himself that will manually record every bid being taken. On some of our property auctions, when a successful bid is placed, the buyer's number will be called out, the buyer's number, and a gentleman will then offer some form of documentation that needs to be accepted and signed by the bidder to accept that he has placed that bid.
Are there any famous prestigious houses that host only live auctions, and what sets them apart from the others, if in your own?
I think the diversity in the last 5 years in South Africa specifically has diverged from live property auctions to mostly online auctions. The new technology allows us now to do online and live auctions at the same time by virtual streaming our auctions. Most of my property auctions are virtually streamed throughout South Africa and international buyers if they attend. So anybody with a computer and a tablet can attend our auctions not by being there physically, but by virtual streaming it. There is still a lot of tradition in Cape Town specifically with traditional property auctioneers where they still fill the rooms and do their auctions. We've tried to combine both worlds by having a full room and also streaming it virtually to the rest of the buying group.
How do you guys promote these live auctions?
Marketing has been one of the most important factors growing a business, and I think throughout marketing processes many years ago we only did the newspaper advertising. We used to fill the newspapers by placing ads. Auctioneers has always been very creative by promoting whatever they've been selling. I can remember people putting up big billboards with their names and their faces on, which is has been a very significant marketing tool for auctioneers specifically. Of late, it's all gone down to viral marketing. It's all gone down to social media, to internet platform-based advertising and marketing, where you can reach a lot more people through a space of a couple of hours, where we normally had to take months and months to advertise and to market. Of late, because of technology, marketing is available within an instant and can reach up to 10,000, 100,000 people in a day.
Personally, would you share a story in terms of a record-breaking live auction that you've once hosted, per se?
Yes, Lufuno, I've been in the industry for now more than 20 years. There's been a lot of highlights in my career. First of all, it's not so much record-breaking auctions, but things that I really enjoy doing and very proud of that, could succeed with a great team behind us. Of recent, I managed to do an auction for a big property company where we were one of the first auction companies that sold a lease agreement in South Africa. And we met the expectations of the city of Cape Town, I would almost say by 50-fold. We achieved a value that was not expected in the open market. It's also one of the longest single items that I've auctioned personally. It took me 19 minutes to sell one item, one lease agreement, and it was a fantastic challenge, but at the end, a very successful challenge, which turned out, record-breaking in South Africa to obtain that type of value for a lease agreement.
Okay. Obviously, with the success, there's lows. What happens to the unsold items? What is the way you go about it?
Mainly on an auction, most of auctioneers would obviously try and sell every single item that is on an auction. Most of the auctions will be a no reserve auction, which means all bids could be accepted. On a specific auction where bids do not get accepted, it will go back to the instructee, which would be the bank, the liquidator. Most auctioneers will remarket a specific item to try and resell on their next auction, or sometimes we'll take private treaty offers where people can then make offers after auction if the item is not successfully sold.
Okay. More about charity auctions. I just wanted us to touch base a bit on charity auctions. What are your views and what are your contributes in terms of charity auctions?
Lufuno, you've touched a very close to the heart point. Charity and fundraising auctions is one of my big passions. If I could work for no salary and only do fundraiser auctions, I would. It's a great passion of mine. I think to do something as an auctioneer that you enjoy and then be able to assist charity organizations and fundraisers, I do that on a regular basis. I do 2 to 3 in a week. It's normally in the evenings over weekends. So I think it's an integral part where auctioneers, and especially SIRE, gets involved by helping and assisting with the skills that we have as auctioneers to raise funds for charities. We've spoken in previous episodes about entertainment as an auctioneer. There is a lot of entertaining auctioneers in South Africa, a lot of great auctioneers in South Africa that enjoys the big crowds, that enjoys entertaining, not just raising funds, but entertaining the crowds, and then in the same instance making some much needed funds for some charities.
What are the measures that are in place in terms of security and integrity of live auctions, including the prevention of fraudulent activities, and counterfeit items, not just whatever has been sold? How do you protect that if it's original or not?
So throughout our career, we've been introduced to many ways of people trying to fraud us by ways of fraudulent payments, by fraudulent items, by defective equipment, by false identifications. They've tried everything, and I think it's how you adapt and how you stand up and change the way you do things. The first and most important thing is by vetting people before they attend an auction, by way of the registration process. And SIRE played a very integral part in how to vet people before a auction, how to get them to pay a registration fee, to get their FICA requirements, to make sure that all the requirements that they have are legal, and try to assist your seller by getting the right buyers, by vetting the right buyers to have a successful auction at the end of the day. Security, in essence, is very important on live auctions. You getting 100 to 200 people at a live event, sometimes more. I think one of my biggest auctions, we had more than 1,000 people at the event, where the security measures needs to be in place, medical measures needs to be in place. So it's almost like arranging not an auction but a big event. So security plays an integral part, protecting the people attending. We're all human beings, different natures, different ways. Theft has occurred many a times, or on some of our auctions where people try to steal. It's how you put measures in place to prevent that. And I think prevention is always better than cure. Prevent these things from happening, or try to prevent them, and put things in place that it doesn't happen to you.
Well, lastly, how can individuals find information about upcoming live auctions in their area or within their specific categories or interests?
Yeah, SIA came with a very big initiative, auctioneering.co.za, where they promote all auction businesses in South Africa, where there's one medium and one platform you can go to see who is registered as a SIA auctioneer, which is very important. Not just fly-by-night auctioneer, that you are registered, that you're vetted by our governing body, and that there's one platform where you can advertise through, where people can go. I think with social media and with viral marketing, websites, email campaigns, everything is in the palm of your hands these days, in a phone. And a lot of auction companies have been promoting their products and their businesses through that form of media, which is, as I say, it's with you within seconds. And I think a lot of clients have databases where they've built on for many years, and through one body, they share it through a SIA governing body, where people can come to one entity and see what is happening in the auction industry in South Africa.
Okay, no, thanks, Steph, for this conversation we had today.
Thank you.